This sound from your television can only mean one thing. Breaking news. The catchy intro then pans to the studio news desk, where the anchor says,
"We interrupt our regular programming to take you to the scene of an emerging act of violence."
Unfortunately, we have heard this script before. The on-the-scene reporter will share that they arrived minutes ago, and dozens of first responders continue to converge on the area.
The block behind me has been taped off. Preliminary information from our sources indicate that multiple people have been wounded, and many others are believed to be deceased. Officials have yet to comment or confirm this.
And before sending it back to the studio, the on-the-scene reporter says,
"We will bring you updates as soon as we get them."
Back at the news desk, the anchors share that there is a lot of information coming into the news station, and they are doing their best to sort through it. The co-anchor interjects and says,
"Our news director is telling us that the shooter has been identified. Our affiliate, Caroline, is first on scene for News Channel 8.
That's right. News Channel 8 was first to find and interview the roommate of the suspected shooter. We agreed to keep their identity a secret as they told us that they have known the shooter for about 12 years, and that they are in utter shock and disbelief that this happened. They told us that the shooter seemed fine, and that there was absolutely no indication that this was going to happen."
Really, no signs or indications?
No, none. The roommate told us that everything seemed fine and that the shooter must have just snapped.
You have heard it countless times on the television after something terrible happens. He just snapped, or no one could have seen this coming. It's this common idea that someone can go from 0 to 100, from totally fine to violent in an instant. But is that really how it works? Do violent attackers just snap?
Well, the short answer is a hard no. The truth is, after decades of research from threat assessment professionals, criminologists, investigators, including the FBI, this whole snapping myth has been completely dismantled.
Targeted violence is almost never a spontaneous thing. In fact, it's actually the final destination of a process. A journey that has very clear signposts along the way.
So if they don't just snap, like most of us have been led to believe, then what do they do?
Well, extensive research confirms that acts of targeted violence develop through a series of observable stages and behaviors that they call the pathway to violence.
This framework is a huge deal because it shows us that these attacks are thought about, planned for, and implemented through a process, not just someone snapping in the moment.
Check out this quote from a major FBI report. It just nails it. This confirms that targeted violence is an evolutionary process. And because it is a process, people drop clues along the way. The report refers to this as signposts. We know signposts to be observable behaviors or indicators that suggest that an individual may be progressing along the pathway to violence.
The most important signpost has a special name, and that name is leakage.
Leakage of pre-attack indicators is so prevalent in most cases that threat assessors have learned to look for it.
The term leakage has a specific origin in threat assessment circles. It was first identified and studied by FBI Special Agent Mary Ellen O'Toole in a landmark report back in 2000.
Her work was a game changer because it shifted the focus from trying to profile personality traits of attackers to instead identifying behaviors that were indicative of actions leading up to an attack.
I'm still confused. What is leakage, exactly?
In simple terms, leakage occurs when a person reveals clues to a third party that indicate an intent to commit a violent act. Leakage is considered to be one of the strongest warning signs that someone may be on the pathway to violence.
Why is leakage such a strong indicator?
Studies continue to confirm that the majority of those who engage in targeted violence give indication of their intent prior to carrying out the act.
Some people provide detailed plans with specific targets, dates, and locations, while others intentionally or unintentionally leave less detailed indicators.
How do people discover leakage?
Anyone could come across leakage. Leakage can appear in stories, essays, poems, journal or diary, drawings, doodles, social media posts and comments, memes, subtle threatening language, boasts, innuendos, and a variety of other means.
Is a direct threat considered leakage?
Although a direct threat might constitute leakage, leakage goes way beyond that. Leakage can show up in all sorts of ways. It can be super obvious, like a video they post online. It can be subtle, like a violent theme in a school essay. A really dark poem, or a chilling offhand comment to a friend, like, "Don't come to school tomorrow."
It is rare that a direct threat is made and then carried out, because most originate from an emotional state of mind. Remember, we are seeking to understand if the person poses a threat, not just that they made a threat. The key is for people to recognize that what is said might be leakage, and that they report it so that it can be thoroughly evaluated.
How often does leakage really happen?
The numbers, they're just staggering. Depending on the events studied, leakage is present in 60 to 90% of targeted violence cases. Everything from school mass casualty incidents to workplace violence attacks.
Just let that sink in for a second. In the vast majority of these terrible events, the attacker told someone or indicated their intentions beforehand. The majority of attackers provide warning signs prior to their attacks, meaning that in most cases of targeted violence, we have an opportunity to intervene and prevent the attack from ever occurring.
Why would someone leak their intentions while preparing for an attack?
This is a huge question, right? If you were planning an attack and you wanted it to succeed, why would you risk telling anyone? Researchers recognized this too, and they sought to understand the motivation behind leakage. This number, right here, is a huge clue. Researchers found that individuals that leaked their plan for an attack were nearly 4 times more likely to have a history of suicidality than the attackers who did not leak.
Is leakage the result of boasting? A way to get attention? Or could it be something else entirely? Well, researchers have dug deep into this, and what they discovered really should change the way we view these warning signs. This correlation suggests that for so many of these individuals, leakage is not about boasting. It is a cry for help. It is a sign, a warning signal for us to recognize that the person is in a state of deep, very deep crisis. They're feeling hopeless. They see violence against others, and often against themselves, as the only way out.
So, knowing that leakage is often a cry for help, we don't have to wait for someone to act in order to respond. We can shift our focus from just punishment towards prevention and intervention, right?
Absolutely. In order to prevent these acts, we all have responsibility to watch for and report behavior that is of concern. Let's be really clear about this. The person that discovers the leakage, the friend, the family member, the classmate, the online community member. In that moment, they become the single most important person that can stop the tragedy before it even starts. They are the most critical link in the chain.
Let's be real, it sounds easy, but so often people don't report. We downplay what we see or hear by saying, "Oh, I'm sure they are just joking around." We are scared that we might be overreacting and surely do not want to falsely accuse anyone of something so serious, especially a friend or loved one. These are all very real and very powerful reasons that keep witnesses silent.
The goal of threat assessment is intervention. We now know that most people don't just snap, and we know that most leak their intentions. We cannot let an opportunity for intervention pass us by, as it is an opportunity to prevent tragedies and save lives.